Alright, I'm pretty sure we're all aware of the latest iPad Pro that was just released by Apple that contains the M1 chip. It's pretty cool just to know the fact how powerful the M1 chips are in the Mac lineup. I mean, now they put it into the iPad Pro, which is just insane. But here's the thing, we're not here to talk about the M1 iPad Pro. We're here to talk about, well, not even the 2020 iPad Pro. We're here to talk about one of the best cases I've seen on an iPad, period. So when it comes to the iPad cases, I have several categories that I usually check off before I pick one. So there's protection, there's design, and then there's extra features. So when Apple released the 2020 iPad Pro last year, they also released the Magic Keyboard, which in my opinion at the time was, I mean even now, it's still one of the most coolest cases I've ever seen. But it still misses out on one of the most important checkboxes, protection. The iPad basically snaps on magnetically and that's about it. The edges are exposed and I'm pretty sure you can bend it. Although it does well in the design department and the extra features because it comes with a pretty decent keyboard, if I gotta say so myself, and the trackpad, beautiful. The fact that there's an extra Type-C port, it was doing well. But there's also one more category that I like to add in, the price. So the Magic Keyboard comes up to around 1,345 ringgit. So yeah, for a case that's very expensive. So that's when I came up to a Kickstarter that started around the same time when the iPad Pro was released, and they called it the MOFT Float. And as a concept at the time, it was amazing. It had the floating ability of the Magic Keyboard, but it's more sleeker and it's well protected. And it's way cheaper, so it's around 200 ringgit. And to compare the prices between the Magic Keyboard and the MOFT Float, I mean, the only difference I see is the fact that this one comes with the keyboard, trackpad, and the Type-C port, the extra Type-C port, and this one's just well protected and it floats. So are you telling me that the extra price difference in between is just for the keyboard? Will you pay that much, or will you just get the case with, you know, a wireless keyboard? You could get a cheap one, just saying, and it still wouldn't cost as much as the Magic Keyboard. So yeah, that's something to think about. So it's basically all about whether or not you're willing to spend that much money for an experience. Yeah. So a year later, Kickstarter went great and they finally released the product around this year, which I immediately got. So this is the MOFT Float. Very sick. Upon getting the case, one thing I realized about this is there's some protrusion on the back. It's not that bad as I thought it would be. So that's what, if this bothers you, then you might not want this. But to me, it doesn't really matter. It's very minute. So when it comes to the floating aspect, you gotta open it. There's a little indicator to where you can open it from. Now this part, when I first opened it, I was a bit worried because I thought I was gonna break it because it was so hard. It still is. It's been a week since I've used it. It's very firm. That's one thing that I appreciate about this. So it opens up to this. Very, very sick. At first sight, it kind of reminds me of an iMac, doesn't it? Just like a really small iMac. I mean, look at it. So another thing that this does well compared to the Magic Keyboard is the fact that there's more angles that you can tilt it to, as you can see right here. So there's more angles and you can lower it and raise it to how high you want it to. And also it has multiple viewing angles. So there's this unfolded float look, and if you adjust the back panel, which actually made from steel, so I appreciate that. You close this, so it simulates a much more classic iPad angle, but you can adjust it to go lower or higher. So I'm assuming this mode is mainly just for writing and stuff because it's more stable, got a better angle for writing. So another angle that you could try is the portrait mode. So you put it like this and voila, super stable. And just view your Twitter feed or something like that, or watch YouTube with the comments down below. I mean, whatever you like. So remember when I was talking about the several aspects that I usually check off? So protection wise, this thing it's hefty. When I took it out, the case was very heavy. It's soft on one edge, mainly because you gotta insert it, but it's solid around the back. When I first saw the case, I thought this thing had a plastic touch, but no, it's got more of it's got a more hard-based silicone feel, and the back, it's some quality plastic. Just it also got some rubber tips in the bottom, just in case, you know, when you put it down, it doesn't move. Very solid, and I'm pretty sure this thing is gonna take a lot more force to bend because it's very solid. So protection wise, good. Design wise, it's simple, elegant. You can hold it one-handedly. It does add a bit of weight to the iPad, but it's not like unmanageable. So there's that. So design wise, I appreciate it. I don't mind the back. Maybe in a future version they could make the case thicker so they can stop the protrusion. I don't know, anything they want. I mean adding the thickness to the case might compromise the design, but still it will add in protection. So that's something to think about, MOFT. And the extra features. The extra features is the amount of viewing angles you can get from this. Now I would like to talk about the downside of this case. So one thing about this case that I noticed in its float mode is the fact that when you put it down, you notice that there's a significant amount of wobble, as you can see over here, which is one of the downsides of this case. I mean, yes, it's built well, everything. They're even giving you like a counterbalance, as you can see over here. So you slide it out so that it won't topple back. But still, it wobbles. So that's another thing MOFT could, you know, try to improve on your next case. Maybe you want to use your Apple Pencil in this mode, it's not gonna be good, mainly because it's gonna wobble a lot. So that's when you gotta close this. So that's when this angle comes in handy. So this is when you're supposed to write. So I'm assuming for this angle is mainly for typing and watching something on the iPad, or having it as like a secondary screen, which I've used it pretty well. Use it while gaming, like I have like a Discord screen on the iPad and then play games on the main screen. It's pretty sick, I love it. Plus, if you didn't know, I play gaming videos and I use the iPad to record my face cam. Before, it was very hard to, you know, record my face cam because I had to put it in a certain angle just to capture my face cam. Whereas now, I got this, which works excellently. Another thing that I'm worried about is how long will this case last? Like, how well are these hinges gonna work? Like right now, it's super tough and sturdy. Like it's very, like it takes a little bit of force just to remove it. So I'm curious to know how well will this hang on to in the long run. So we'll see about that. So yeah, that is pretty much all I can talk about the MOFT Float. Nothing I like is how it snaps when you close it. Like, it's got a satisfying snap. I really like that. I appreciate that. So yeah, this is the MOFT Float. If I had to give a rating to these cases, I mean, the case before, I was using a unique case. I love that case mainly because of the feel of it, but it wasn't perfect. And I gave that case like an 8 out of 10. Now for this case, I would give it a solid 9. If I'm going to be honest, it could have been a 10 if it just wasn't for this wobble. But yeah, it is what it is. It's their first iteration of this type of case. They do a lot of other cool cases I've seen. I wasn't aware of the existence of this brand till around last year when I found out about the Kickstarter. So they've got a lot of cool cases. By the way, this video is not sponsored by MOFT, although, you know, in the future, MOFT, if you wanna reach out to me, that would be pretty cool. So please consider sponsoring me. I mean, if you compare this case to all the other high-end, top-tier case companies that make for iPads, the price range is around 100 to 200 for a solid, high-quality case. And this thing, the fact that you can get this for 200 is very decent. The Magic Keyboard is just, price-wise, it's nah. I would like to test out the Magic Keyboard one day, maybe sometime in the future when the price goes down. Otherwise, I'm gonna stick to this boy, and maybe I might get like a Bluetooth keyboard to pair with this. I mean, with an added keyboard and a mouse, this thing would basically be like a mini iMac. I mean, you do see it, right? Am I the only one? So that's all I gotta say about the MOFT Float case. It's an amazing case. Do I recommend you getting it? Yeah, support the company. I mean, they're doing pretty innovative stuff. There's a lot of cool cases they do for iPhones and iPads and even Apple Pencil cases and all that. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys for watching. Do leave a comment on what you think is the best case for an iPad. Yeah, that's right. Best case that checks off all the 3 categories that I mentioned. Actually, it's 4. Counting twice. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Think twice, but what are you gonna do? If this is the type of life you want to, just let it on you. I say.